Now, the last part of this is we want to make this pyramid build up and then build down again. And so what we need to do is we need to tell this pyramid row exactly, not just the number of hashtags, but how tall the whole pyramid is supposed to be, which in this case is 5. So we also need to pass in the total height here, height, for the total height of the pyramid. So the height is going to be 5 every time, whereas this number I, this variable I, is going to change each time the loop runs. The reason why we want to know that is because we actually want to know the number of spaces that appear before each hashtag. Because if we print out this first row first, we need to know that there are 4 spaces here, and then a hashtag, and then a space, and then a hashtag, and then 4 spaces again. So we're going to run a loop to print out the number of spaces, and then a loop to print out the number of hashtags. Both of those are going to happen. Here's how we do it. We're going to refactor this a little bit. Are you ready? The first thing we're going to do is we passed in the height to this function also. So it should also take in the height. Now the reason why that's useful is because we're going to change this right here. Instead of first printing the hashtags, we're going to first print the number of spaces. We're going to say for let spaces equal to the height minus the number of hashtags. And as long as spaces is greater than or equal to 0, spaces minus minus. So we're going to count down. Now this algorithm is a little weird. Here's how it works. First thing, this spaces variable is equal to the total height, which is always going to be 5 in this case, minus however many hashtags there's supposed to be. So for the first time, the height is 5, and there's supposed to be 1 hashtag, which means how many spaces should we start off with? If the height is 5, and the number of hashtags we start at is 1, we should have 4 spaces. And so we'll say result plus equals, for every space, we'll just add a space. And then we'll do the same thing for hashtags. We'll say for let num equal num hashtags, however many hashtags we still want to start out with. And we'll do the same thing. As long as num is less than or greater than or equal to 0. Oh, I spelled that wrong. Hashtags. There we go. Num minus minus. And we'll just count down from whatever number we need to start on. And we'll add a hashtag. Now this algorithm should work the same. It should do one thing a little bit different. So we're just starting with the number of, we're calculating the number of spaces we need. Calculate the number of spaces needed. And add them to the result. Determine or add the number of hashtags to the result also. Now why do we do them in this order? Because if you look, the first thing that happens is the spaces get added and then the hashtag gets added. Spaces get added, hashtags get added. Spaces get added, hashtags get added. The reason why that actually works is when we run this code, let's see what it looks like. It now counts upwards. Oh, I think it's supposed to be just greater than 0. Yeah, there you go. And so now it builds the pyramid up like this, which is exactly the direction we wanted. Right? And then you add a space in the middle, space, and you do the original one. And we should get it to work. Bam. Problem solved. So let me go over what I just did again. Are you ready? We built this up piece by piece. We did this at first. All we had was just this section right here. So I'm going to get rid of all these. This is what it looked like the first time we ran this code. It just looked like that, right? I got rid of all the code that made that section. I commented it out. I put comments in front of it. So you just come here, slash, slash, space, slash, slash, space, slash, slash. So this code no longer is, it's all commented out. And what I did is I added this code in instead. I started by determining how many spaces are needed and adding the number of spaces. Then I added the number of hashtags. I commented out the first part of the code we wrote. And then I added a space in the middle. So when I run this, it should now flip the direction of the pyramid. And it looks like that. If your code right here is correct, it should work. Let me know if you have any errors, and I'll come around and fix this. Or if you want me to explain this part again, I'll fix this for you. 3 loops. Each one does a different thing. This first loop here, instead of, you know what? Instead of a space, I'm going to print out a dash like this, just so you can see what's actually happening. I'm going to put a dash there instead of a space. And so watch what happens when I put a dash, when I replace that with a dash. If I run this code, it fills in all those spots with dashes. Do you see that? This is what it actually does, what the code actually does. It loops over the number of times there's supposed to be a space, and it fills in something there. Now, if I put a dash, it looks like this. If I put an actual space, it just makes it look like a pyramid. Like that. The way this works is by determining, using some very simple math to figure out how many spaces there needs to be. If there is one hashtag and the pyramid is 5 rows tall, there needs to be how many spaces? 4. There needs to be 4 spaces in front. Let me show us. Let's do this. Let me change it to 0 so it might be a little, so it's right up against this wall. And let me replace it with a dash. How many dashes do I have in the first row? 4. There needs to be 4 spaces before we get to a hashtag. How do I find out 4 spaces? Well, it's the total height of the pyramid minus how many hashtags there are. The total height of the pyramid is what? 5. How many hashtags are in the first row? 1. So there should be 4 spaces. Second row, how many hashtags are there? 2. There's 2 hashtags. What's the total height? What's 5 minus 2? There should be 3 spaces there, and I see 3 dashes. Third row, there's 3 hashtags. What's the total height of the pyramid? What's 5 minus 3? And we see 2 spaces there. Now, if I replace that dash with a space, again, this just looks like a pyramid. This is how I did my algorithm runs. It calculates exactly how many spaces there are, and it adds them to this results variable. And then, for however many hashtags we've decided to add for that row, it adds that number of hashtags. And then, it puts a space in the middle. And then, it prints the pyramid in the opposite direction like we did before we changed this all up. And so the total code should look like this. If you're still struggling with it, I can go over this later. But in the essence of time, that is all I have for you right here. So I'll put all this code into Slack. You can play around with it, but that is all for me.